Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Brian Barber. Yes, once again, you have found your way into the darkness of the Fox Den for an episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. And I see you do bring me gifts. That was absolutely delicious. And thank you for feeding me and releasing me from my shackles. So without further ado, it is once again time for Bigfoot's Barbershop and Midnight Lycanthropy to take a walk into the darkness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
Ooh, my creatures of the night, once again, you have found your way into the Fox Den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Bigfoot's Barbershop, aka Brian Barber, has also managed to find his way through the werewolf and dogman infested forest to sit down and get the late night fire burning for us. And tonight we, are talking about the one and only Linda Godfrey. We will pay homage and tribute to her. She is one of my favorite researchers. Brian, my guy, how the heck are you doing?
Doing pretty darn good. Enjoying the Sunday afternoon and learning more about Linda Godfrey. She is way more than I had expected as far as versatility in the cryptid world, for sure. And how she got started is just kind of, in and of itself, pretty special.
Yeah, she is definitely awesome for sure, my guy.
How are you doing?
Well, just linking up here with you for a few, and then I am going to hopefully get a video edited and downloaded to my Google Drive, and then it's getting pretty filled up, so I will probably back that up onto my portable Samsung hard drive that my little brother got me, which is sick. And then after that, if I have any juice left in the tank, because I've had a pretty productive night at around 6 p.m. Eastern time, I sat down with one of my good buddies, Robert Prevost, who's part of the North American Dogman Project Science team. So I was over on his podcast, Monstrous. And then I got to sit down with one of my best friends, Jody Cook, yes, the founder of the North American Dogman Project, at 7:30. And now I am sitting down, linking up with another one of my best buddies, you, and recording. And then, like I said, I do have some pictures I would like to kind of pluck away on. I mean, I've been trying to, it's not of importance, but I have 3 or 4 images of Jeremy Swayman, my favorite athlete and one of my favorite people, the Bruins goalie, that I just got to plug in something on his jersey and some stats and such. But honestly, I've been working on other things for my podcast, like, thumbnails that I sent you and stat cards and such. So, yeah, what about you, man?
After this, I'm going to go and cut a video for the Bigfoot's Barber Shop. We're going to do a little New Year's and go into in-depth detail, the most efficient way to drop some weight. And I'll leave it at that because the video will be kind of, you'll see, it won't be too long, but it's the most efficient way.
Great stuff, man. And you being a big Bigfoot guy, no pun intended. Before we dive into Linda, have you heard of Sax Squatch? Yes, sax, like in saxophone, Sax Squatch. He's so dope. He dresses up in this huge Bigfoot suit, and he, I believe, might have played basketball at a point in time, but he makes all his own music and stuff, and he is absolutely legendary, dude.
Is he the one in the TikTok videos?
He must be, of course. I mean, he's everywhere. There's a hilarious video of him playing where these cows come up to the side and they're listening to him. And all I can think in my head is, imagine if you pissed off a real Sasquatch and it comes over and starts whooping his ass.
Yeah, he might want to be careful. Let's just say, I hope he investigates the area thoroughly, not only for Sasquatch, but maybe some suspect hunters who see something brown and
yes,
crosshairs on him.
Bro, he looks so real and it's such a beautiful outfit. But yeah, he's in the middle of the forest sometimes. I think he might be down in North Carolina. So yeah, it's just being humorous. Imagine that, right? A real Sasquatch like, hey, what the fudge? What are you doing? You making fun of me, buddy?
Or I like
He
that.
might
Too.
look
I'm
like
going
one.
to take you home and you're going to play that for my wife.
Right, exactly. He might look like one, but he doesn't have the strength of one for sure. But yeah, he is a super tall dude and he's awesome. But I highly suggest checking out his stuff. It's super chill, but it just made me chuckle because of, what we had spoken about. And when you got a chance to dive into Linda, I would like you to tell the audience what you did dig up, because to the audience, it's pretty easy to find information on Linda, and I highly suggest before you ever listen to anybody else on the whole Dogman or werewolf topic, you start with Linda Godfrey, Jody Cook, and also Monster Quest. Okay, those three right there are going to get you really in the proper direction as to what you should be doing and how you should be approaching the topic and understanding it. Okay, so Linda was, I'm going to let Brian in a second cover a vast majority of this, but I'm going to touch base on the Dogman part right here. She was a journalist and newscaster from Wisconsin, okay? She was in a pretty small part of town and wasn't necessarily a huge news station, etc., but she happened to hear about this strange canine-like creature that was on Bray Road, and she started to cover it and document it, and had a chance to sit down with a gentleman that was basically more or less part of City Hall, I guess, and would be in charge of animal disturbances and just other things. Yeah, pretty much like a town hall guy, and he had a huge folder, because yes, this is before things were really documented elsewise, but a manila folder stacked up called Werewolf. And yeah, that's pretty much how Linda was really diving into all this, and she brought a ton of light to that topic. So anyone out there, it's great to listen to other people. I mean, knowledge is awesome, but you got to start, with the foundation before you can actually build the structure on top of it. So do make sure you do your research on those three subjects that I listed, because if not, all you're doing is cutting yourself short. And now I'm going to toss the mic over to Brian, because there is so much more to Linda than just what I mentioned, even though that is absolutely legendary there.
Yeah, the fact that she was just didn't even sound like believe in it, but then gets the call to go check out this, canine upright being that's running around on Bray Road, and the depths she went to investigate it and check everything out before she made any opinions on it. And I don't know what interview it was, but the fact that she coined the term Dogman, a lot of people don't realize that, and I didn't until a few weeks ago. I thought that was something that had been around since the 60s, but she did it. And as you and I talked about, she even admitted in a later interviews that she kind of regrets just calling it a dog man because it sounds like a poodle on two legs or something. But the fact that I think she's got 17 books and 5 of them are all intertwined about the connection between like the Beast of Bray Road, Michigan Dogman, and several other cases. And she draws the parallels between them and how goes into depth that it makes it sound really plausible from the standpoint that it's not like they're all black. You get a color variance with like you would in the normal population. You get brown ones, black ones, even white ones. She was bringing all this to light and put it in a concise manner that people could read. And so I knew she was an authority on Dogman, but then when you listen to her talk about Bigfoot, she's as well versed as anybody else that's in the field today. She wasn't actually just sitting back and collecting reports is very important, but she wasn't just collecting reports. She was going to as many of these places as she could. She was actively going out and looking for Dogman and actively looking for Bigfoot and on site getting these people's stories and even going out after the fact in places where they'd been reported and actively researching and investigating and collecting her own evidence. So, I mean, it's quite a remarkable woman who went from just being a reporter, not just a reporter, but a reporter, to being the leading authority on Dogman, a very well and respected researcher in the Bigfoot realm. From the looks of it, I haven't personally read them, but from reading reviews, an amazing author on the topics. Anything she covered was well thought, well planned, well worded. It was documented for the most part. So it wasn't like she was just taking people's accounts and taking them at their word. She would, look into it, talk with other people about it. Is this plausible, not plausible? But at the same time, she wouldn't just dismiss portals in and out, because that fell under the Native American version where that's how they would call them, a spirit animal. She put all this together. And it's pretty amazing just to sit back and look at what she did and what she accomplished and the legacy that she created in a relatively short period of time. She accumulated a lot of knowledge. I mean, compared to people that have been studying Bigfoot for 40 years. Let's see, when was that? 2000 or 97, I believe she was talking about it, because she actually wound up talking to Steve Cook and said, hey, we got some of this stuff, here, and interviewed him and put the truth out there about the legend, the whole song behind it and everything. It wasn't like she ever perpetuated any prank like originally Steve had intended to do. The nice thing was there, though, he did, and Linda compliments him for the fact that any money he made donations to the animal shelters. But I'm just blown away at how much she knew and can just draw upon. And I've watched a couple podcasts now, Paranormal Zone, and listening to her speak is just, you just sit there and an hour and 10 minutes goes by before you even know what's happening, and yet you're able to learn so much. But you missed a lot, so you want to go back and re-listen.
Yeah, she's goated, man, for sure. That's excellent stuff. And again, preach, because yes, she created that term dog man. So again, everyone that tries to not give Linda credit for that, well, yes, Linda created that. So let's just make sure that we do give proper respect to people that paved the way for the rest of us. Because, I mean, it's awesome to build off of others' knowledge and things. I mean, that's what we're all here for. But I mean, if I've learned something from somebody, I state that I learned it from somebody. You know, I don't just act as if I one day woke up and created this in my own mind, you know? So, I mean, the reason I have opinions on things and all kinds of reasonings are based off of working with brilliant minds. I mean, my science team and everybody else I roll with, I mean, they're all responsible just as much as that, you know? So it's super important to give that credit that is deserved, man. And this also goes to show you why you can't believe Hollywood and anything that says based off a true story. There is an absolutely turd ball movie called Beast of Bray Road. It's hot, straight up garbage cheese. I don't even know if you want to call it a B flick because it's just absolutely awful. The gore is pretty realistic and gruesome, but the werewolf itself is terrible, and obviously the whole scenario of how it unfolds is terrible. And no, there are none that we know of that were fatalities of people by this Beast of Bray Road or Dogman, okay, in Wisconsin on Bray Road. None. Zero. So this movie, well, takes liberty and shows you, I don't even know, probably 12 people that just get smoked. And I don't really see where the based on the true story minus the fact that they use the title comes into play because I don't know. I guess the girl breaks down on Bray Road is what it's supposed to be, apparently. But either way, straight up hot garbage. But to anyone out there, yes, just because something says based off a true story, that's a perfect example. That is like, what, 10% based on true story. So they shouldn't even have been allowed to use that. They took a liberty saying based off real events. But when I was speaking to Jody earlier before we get back to rolling with Linda, man, he informed me of some pretty epic, but, well, unfortunate information about how he named off the amounts of recognized indigenous tribes and such, and not even half of them acknowledge Bigfoot and have encounters with them, which is understandable because they wouldn't have been necessarily in certain areas like the plain tribes, etc. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal. But man, not many at all. You could count probably on two hands, maybe your toes, how many tribes have any sort of representation of a dogman, which is interesting because it then makes me wonder if this is a more modern day phenomenon then, or how could that be though? Because the Cynocephali are old school. So there's something we're missing here, meaning there is a part of the bridge that we still have to build here. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of baffling to me. So before we dive back into Linda, how do you feel about that?
Probably just a matter of maybe those tribes that can communicate as well with the outside world, maybe kept it more to themselves instead of acknowledging that they kind of fell into every other tribe. It's hard to put a finger on location.
Definitely. And that would be reassuring because I really like to dive into indigenous lore and history and such. And there are, like Jody mentioned, one where he found a very strange carving of a mask that had the pointy ears and looked like some of the descriptions of dogmen and such. But for the most part, it's just not really necessarily heavily documented or spoken about. But yeah, when you were also diving into Linda, what else were you able to find about her? Because as you stated, yeah, she covered numerous topics. I mean, she's a journalist and newscaster, so that's usually how it works. I mean, you take on a project and then potentially move on to another one when you're finished, or you feel like you are able to allot more of your time to it. But yeah, man, she legit is so responsible for all the quality stuff. And there's just so many people out there, I'm never going to just publicly say names, that just legit steal her stuff, man, and just don't even acknowledge it. It's brutal. I mean, you can't just start talking about something and then not say, hey, Linda Godfrey covered this or etc. It's just so disrespectful, I feel like, man.
No, and I totally agree with you. And that's getting more and more prevalent with social media is, and this is a term that's always bothered me, is when you get somebody, whether they're on YouTube or not, and says, we discovered. It's like, what do you mean we discovered? Did you fund the study? Were you part of the study? Were you part of the gathering of the study? You didn't discover jack crap. They discovered. You read about it. You know, you're not part of the we buddy. It's like, give credit where credit's due. We didn't do this. These scientists did this. That's like saying, watching the Bruins game and so-and-so scores 3 points. Well, we scored 3 points and we didn't do this. No, you're not part of the Bruins. The Bruins did that. You didn't do squat but sit there and eat cheese puffs and root for them. So, no, we didn't do it. The Bruins did it. Congratulations. Same thing with a lot of the research and, with the cryptid community and even just science in general. We did this. No, we didn't. They did. You should say, I read, or this study says, funded, give the real details and don't take credit for something that's not yours.
Preach, man. I mean, it's like if I was to just pop on here and start covering the case of the younger girl driving down Bray Road and then just end the video and not say anything about Linda. No, you started off with the great Linda Godfrey, or however you would like to word it. That's how I'd be wording it. Covered this encounter, and we're going to actually take a second look at it or something like that. And yeah, man, it's just kudos, dude. It's just a respect thing, man. That's all. And like you said, it's unfortunate because people just don't pay the respect that they should. I mean, dude, Linda, I would love to be able to sit down and read her book that she carried around with all her research in it. I know Aaron Deese and Heather Moser from Small Town Monsters have been able to read it and stuff, and it has all like the drawings in there. But man, she had so much. It's like pretty much like the holy grail of research. Like Jody Cook was saying, man, before we had all these other ways to sit here and try to figure out research and such, guess what? When you were out in the field, what were you carrying around? Linda Godfrey's books, man, her drawings and everything, bro.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to follow somebody, you may as well follow the best. And it sounds, from all accounts, like, she was the best at that point in time, for sure. People, she's one of those that is definitely gonna a heck of a legacy. It sounds like she didn't miss any detail when she got into something that was all or nothing. My problem was I only got to watch a couple of podcasts because I got so engrossed. Instead of watching, bits and pieces of 9 or 10, I watched 2 whole ones. So it was 3 hours right there. Just because she's so engrossing when she was talking. That was the other thing. She was able to communicate so well. Yeah, even in the days that, like we were talking about, you go back to podcasts 10 years ago and you got phones ringing in the background and people lighting up smokes on screen, and you can hear all of a sudden she leans over and yells at the kid to stop doing something. I mean, she was just ahead of her time as far as really putting the scientific method to it.
Super nice too, down to earth, and really amazing person. And rest in peace as well to Brenton Sawin. I used to watch his stuff. It kind of reminded me of what you were saying, a little bit more of the old school kind of like the phone falls over or something. Oh, hold on a second, buddy. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, wow. You should check him out sometime, man. He's an OG as well. His name is Brenton Sawin, and unfortunately, rest in peace, I believe he passed away from brain cancer a while ago. But he has a ton of really interesting encounters with some, people that sat down and talked to him. He's pretty much an OG version of us, man. I mean, before this really picked up on YouTube, I feel like, man. I mean, he's got a ton of subs now and stuff, but dude, if he was still kicking around, dude, he would be a big time person up on YouTube, I feel like, bro, for sure.
That's what I would love to be able to, some of those older personalities be able to have those interviews now instead of on reel-to-reel tapes hidden in somebody's archives, where more people could reach out like they do now and hear. I mean, like I said, the interviewer that I listened to was 10 years old, but the information was just amazing, even though obviously there were quirks in trying to watch it, but I'm a visual person, so to hear audio only, I lose a lot. My attention goes other places, so I am sure I probably missed 25% of the information she put out just because my mind would wander because I couldn't see the face communicating, even though she was very engaging verbally. And she's just so nonchalant about it, too. There's no arrogance to her. That was the other thing. Some of these guys nowadays, oh, my gosh, they call themselves experts. It's like, you're the only one in this room with 300 people or 2 million followers that you got to consider you an expert. You are a person.
I don't think I ever heard her say that ever. Like you said, yeah, she's super chill. She was awesome. And do you have your phone right by you, bro?
Yeah.
All right, so I just sent it to you, and that's what I mean because he is old school. Like it's just got such an old school feel to it. That's his logo, man, and his intros and just his feel is something that reminds me of like a high school PowerPoint setup, more or less. But either way, he talks and has some really interesting people on there. I do highly suggest you check out that sometime. It's something you can just, put up in the background while you're working on some things. Every once in a while, he does have his guests with drawings and things. And yeah, man, he was pretty cool. It seemed like what he was doing and as a person and stuff. And rest in peace, buddy. But yeah, Brenton Sawin's a pretty OG as well. So
I like the thumbnails.
That's what I mean. Those are like what we're
Dogman encounter, hour long. That's got my attention already. Michigan Dogman.
Mm-hmm. Check them out for sure. And those thumbnails, like you said, were done by his guests and things, man, that were like hand drawn and stuff. Because this is way before you could really create AI and Brendan wasn't really a tech savvy guy anyhow, more or less. So he wouldn't have been like creating anything like that really inside of any sort of apps or such. He was pretty straightforward dude, man. Just called people on his phone or, through his computer setup and just recorded, man. I mean, straight to the point, dude. Really no sort of special effects at all. Like I said, old school YouTube, but great stuff as well. And that's just falls into the category, like you said, of just paying the respect, man. I mean, any of the Dogman things you see on there that he spoke about, I got those documented in my book, man, and I try to make sure that I shout out Brenton because, again, great knowledge, man. And yeah, some of those we aren't so sold on, because there isn't really much to verify it, but yeah, pretty gnarly stuff. And Linda, yes, made a good point about Steve. The thing with Steve Cook, though, too, is he wasn't hoaxing, though, is what people, I feel like, get wrong. Everything he spoke about in that video, they're all true minus the OnStar call, which I believe you and I have already spoken about that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of the rest of them are real. Those are all real encounters and such that have been verified and can't be debunked. So I get when people want to say a spoof or something or for fun, he created that song on Halloween, but it's not a hoax because they're all true minus that one, which until recently when Jody and others were able to show that the OnStar was a hoax, it was believed to have been real at the point in time when Steve created the song. So if anything, it just gave people kind of more courage to come forward and speak. So I don't really think he did anything wrong at all, man, personally.
No, he put a song together that he donated money to charity for. He just took a bunch of facts and put them together and and this was in the video with Linda. I haven't actually watched. The only video I've seen of Steve was on Monster Quest.
Hmm.
but was kind of like he thought people would call the radio station and laugh. Yeah, that's not, blah, blah, blah. But what happened was, as you know, maybe some of the listeners don't, people were calling and saying, yeah, my brother saw this while he was at college on this road. And, oh, yeah, my grandpa had a sighting back in this day. And it was totally opposite of what he thought was going to happen.
Yeah, because that's what I mean about how it just kind of gave people a little bit more clarity and understanding because there's probably a decent probability that no one had heard of all those encounters, maybe some of the locals and stuff. But that's the thing, right around the time that song came out, too, we're not talking about the hot spot of YouTube and Google. We're still talking about kind of like the earlier stages where you're not really going to find quality information about that. Now, when you search on Google, everything and it's, your grandmother's tooth from 10,000 years ago comes up, right? But like before then, when I was in high school, if I fired up the old school coal powered computer we had, right, with a dial up and
Yeah.
such, and tried to look on the internet for things like werewolves and such. Yeah, right, man. There was pretty much like nothing. I feel like I would have found more information on Napster.
And yeah, in 87, I mean, was right on that very brink, I think, when the internet got turned on, because it was just a couple of years before that. We were on green screen pet Commodore computers writing programs because you couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
their idea of a floppy disk was something the size of a baseball home plate, that held X amount of kilobytes, or, and
What
something
even
less
is
than
a
a
floppy
megabyte.
disk, man? What the heck?
There was nothing floppy about that disk. That was like a ninja throwing star.
It's funny to just see that and just be like baffled. Like, yes, what the heck even is a VHS or a cassette or like you said, a floppy disk? Dude, I just turned my TV on and I have my apps or my Xbox. Like, and people are rocking like floppy disks. I mean, same thing with like DVDs and CDs, man. Like, you don't really need any of that stuff anymore. Like, I bought some DVDs from my nieces a while ago. My little brother's like, you should have just checked with us. Like, we don't even have a DVD player. Everything is just literally digitally like streamed. I was like, oh yeah, that makes a valid point.
Well, now that I know that, I'll send you a DVD player with those DVDs I was going to send you.
Well,
I
I mean,
remember
my
when a
Xbox
DVD
plays
player
it,
was
but
300-400 bucks. You know,
yeah, it's because it's vintage. It's so funny because no one like rocks that anymore. So when you were diving into Linda, what would have been more or less your favorite, I guess, encounter you got a chance to read about, or should I say, yeah, what's your favorite and what's the most strange you heard?
the she didn't talk. She talked a little bit about encounters, individual encounters, but she talked about how she was just getting into all the reports of habituation, and she was worried that was going to become a trend. Was more and more people. There were either more and more of these things out there, or more and more people who were habituating them, which was going to lead to problems. The one, she. The other thing that was interesting was the host kind of says, "Oh, well, Bigfoot appears one, Dogman and packs," and she's like, "Well, no, actually, you kind of got that backwards. There's the family had taken a picture of a set of five green eyes, and I don't remember if they found prints or not, so I'm not going to say they did. But the next morning, they took pictures that night, and yeah, you can kind of see apparently different glowing green, but nothing definitive. And I don't remember if they found tracks the next morning. But then she went into um, a Bigfoot encounter in the very next sentence where the guys were out in a boat and they were splashing and stuff, and all of a sudden they hear something coming in the water, and there's a Bigfoot swimming toward them, and the family of Bigfoot were on the shore, whooping and screaming, but she couldn't figure out if it was whooping and screaming for the one in the water to come back, or if it was trying to get the guy to run away before the one in the water got him. So the fact that she was worried about habituation back then was pretty interesting considering what I did.
Yeah, some pretty gnarly stuff right there for sure. And I would have to say, well, would you like to hear my two favorites because I can't pick one, or would you like to hear my most bizarre one? Not meaning I don't like it, but it's just, yeah, most bizarre.
I was amazed at how many accounts she was able to acquire, because she was talking about getting, a couple a week, and this was back before, very many emails. I mean, as she progressed, obviously more emails, but she was getting
Mm-hmm.
between one or two a week, and the fact that she was going out investigating many of these as possible
Mm-hmm.
just blew my mind. So
Yeah, and actually sitting down and talking with them, that's what I'm saying, man. I mean, this is where hands-on, or I think it's a corny term, boots on the ground, comes into play. I mean, she was all of those. So again, not only collecting stuff, being a analytical side in mind, but then also hands-on and right out there. Do we say go status?
yeah, exactly. I think I want to hear your most bizarre one. Let's end it on a bizarre note.
Well, I will tell you that one first. And the most bizarre one that she covered was someone saying they saw a bright blue, ambient colored Dogman that was glowing and almost seemed to be there, but not be there, walking down the side of Bray Road.
Okay, so real Dogman and DOC combined.
Pretty much, yeah. And like we had said, Linda, did as much back checking and fact checking as she could on things, and she wrote it and documented that. Pretty
Huh.
interesting right there for sure. And then the two that I would have to say that are my favorites that I cannot pick one or two, obviously, is the OG account of the younger girl who was driving home after work and saw what looked to be a canine, baboon, werewolf like thing crouched down, consuming a deceased carcass on the side of the road, and then bolted off into the cornfield. That one's pretty gnarly. And then the other one, like I said, that's tied right there for me is the couple that saw what they swore was this thing sitting on the roof looking at them. And there's actually a really awesome hand drawing that Linda did herself, I believe, of it, which is straight up gnarly. And she was an amazing artist too. I mean, if anyone sees the drawings that she did for some of the witnesses, dang, I wish I could hand draw like that for sure, man.
Yeah, and now that you're talking about weird accounts, I was doing a couple things at once, but she was talking about a guy who was driving down the road, saw an abnormally large um, gray and white, what looked like to be a wolf, but way too big. And as he was driving, it began to stand up, but he just splattered it with the car, didn't even hit the brakes. And goes to go back, and whatever it was gone. There was no blood, but he had hair to verify that he had hit something in his grill, and there was damage to the car. So
Wow.
that one, the fact that he didn't even lift off the gas, he just stayed on.
Jeez. That's brutal. The only thing I can relate to that as we're tying this up is I had an old school Buick that I spent way too much money on trying to keep it nice. And man, it's not funny, but like when you think about it afterwards, you're like, what the heck? It's you chuckle, but it's not funny because you unalived this deer. But I'm driving, and these deer move off to the side of the road, and I had a feeling it was going to go run towards the car, right? But of course, I tried to speed up, and then I hit the deer. I hit her like right in the back, and she went into the air, probably, no exaggeration, like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet into the air, and about like 10 to 15 yards in the air in the opposite direction. And she was still trying to run with her front legs. And then it just like, just hit the pavement, did the rollover, and like went down into the ditch over there. And when you say like that guy had hit it, that's the only thing I guess I could potentially like relate to. But I felt terrible, man, for sure. And I effed my car up, dude.
Well, here's one where the universe was telling me something was going to happen because on my way home from work one night, I had a 2-hour drive each way. And there was one area well known for, deer crossing on this hill. And I get to the bottom of the hill and I'm going home. So I'm going to be going up the hill. A fox runs out in front of me.
No.
So I lay on the brakes, miss the fox. Phew. Get going about a quarter of the way up the hill. A turkey goes in front of me.
Oh, no.
Swerved to miss the turkey.
What the heck?
Halfway up the hill, a coyote runs out in front of me. So I'm like, what the heck is this? An escape, safari zoo? What's going on?
Frogger.
And then as I go to top the hill, I see a deer. And I stomp on hit the clutch, hit the brakes, close my eyes, brace for impact. And maybe it was like I hear a little thump. And I thought, well, that's not bad. And open my eyes just in time to see the deer come down in my windshield and into my car.
Oh, no.
Kick the windshield, kicks me, getting out of the car, and takes off across the field. So,
dude, that's what I'm saying, because it's not funny, but just imagine that. I don't know. It's just like flying through the air, but it's still trying to run. I don't know if that'd be my reaction flying through the air, but I hope I'm not in that situation ever. So.
No, that would be like Rudolph had one too many or something.
Right, dude? Like, I don't know. Like I said, if I'm ever projected into the air like that, I don't think I'm gonna try to like run with it. I don't know. I feel like I'm just destroyed. But for some reason, they're still trying to cut wind. But yeah.
Nope, after the turkey, I should have just stopped and thought about it. Maybe even went back to work.
Man, that's so brutal, dude. On another funny note, one time, dude, before we let you go, is when I was living in downtown Westbrook in southern Maine, sitting there, and it's pretty late in the morning, man. I mean, it's like 2, almost 3-ish, and getting ready to head home, and it's foggy out, and I'm sitting down by this public library on Main Street in this gas station, and dude, this moose, yes, a moose, comes around the corner and like slips kind of across the pavement. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm tired right now, but what the fudge? So I turned down my music, shook my head, closed my eyes for a second. No, there's a freaking moose looking at me. And then just like runs off like down past like the library and down below. And still to this day, when I think about the forest, the closest forest where he could have came from, where he had any area to like really be running around, was, dude, maybe a good 3 or 4 miles away. I don't even know why or how the frig he decided to come down Main Street Westbrook, but he did.
Animals are all go, no show, that's for sure.
Right, bro.
Where they want, when they want, don't care who sees them.
Like, don't you think, like, I mean, it's obviously a little bit different, but if you and I are walking around and we go into a bad neck of the neighborhood, where I'm just using this as an example, don't you think you realize you're there and you go back the other way? I mean, I'm a huge advocate because I know a lot of animals are smart, but I'm not really sold on deer and moose so much. I mean, this moose had to do a lot of running on pavement, bro, and a lot of going in between people's houses, dude, and like nothing looking like the woods at all. I mean, shouldn't it have at some point realized it was getting closer to downtown Westbrook,
Yeah, that's like having an attitude of, instead of a turnaround, well, I'll just keep going and see where this goes. I'll come through it.
Yes, dude. And we all know how that works out, right? So what the heck, man? But great stuff, bro. Before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to touch base on?
No, just, it was fun to look into Linda and everything she's done. So, rest in peace.
Yeah, for sure, man. She is definitely missed, but forever loved. And no worries, my friend. Your research will forever live on, because here at the North American Dogman Project, we still got it churning around. And yeah, it is out there. And thank you to everyone that did stop in tonight. But we do need to let Mr. Barber go, and this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society. But no worries. Yes, you get Mr. Barber ×2, so you will hear from him very soon again. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight, bro.
Oh, I appreciate it. This was a great night.
Yes, if you did make it this far tonight, you truly are a legend, and I adore every single one of you. Please like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, and I will catch you